The stars above Zithra shone like scattered diamonds across the endless black canvas of space. From the palace balcony, Princess Lyra watched them silently, her mind heavy with worries that felt too large for even the wide universe. At 19 cycles of her people's calendar, she had been trained her entire life to be a ruler, to think of the kingdom before herself. Yet tonight, she felt powerless against a future that had been decided for her long before she understood it. The council chambers had been crowded with advisors, generals, and diplomats earlier in the day. Every voice had spoken with the same conviction. War was inevitable if Zithra did not act immediately. Their neighboring systems, long jealous of Zithra's wealth and resources, had formed a federation bent on domination. The Zithrans were strong, brilliant, and proud, but even they could not face the combined fleets of their enemies without risking total annihilation. Princess Lyra had listened to all the arguments, her mind racing through every possible solution. Treaties had been attempted. Bribes had been offered, and still the enemy grew stronger, bolder, more certain of victory. The council's decision was harsh, cold, and final. Zithra must secure peace by any means necessary. That meant she must marry a human. The name had been spoken with reverence and hesitation, Commander Ethan Hale of Earth, a human planet in a distant sector that Zithra rarely interacted with. He was known for his tactical genius, his bravery in countless interstellar conflicts, and a strange, almost magnetic calm in the face of danger. To the council, he represented a way to protect Zithra, a way to ensure the survival of the planet and her people. Lyra's stomach had twisted at the thought. She had never met a human. She did not know their ways, their thoughts, or their feelings. The idea of sharing her life, even ceremonially, with someone so alien seemed impossible. And yet she understood the truth the council tried to soften with polite words. This was no longer about love or comfort or choice. It was about survival. Now, standing alone on the balcony, Lyra wondered how she could face a stranger and convince her heart to accept the impossible. She heard a soft sound behind her and turned to see her handmaid, Saris, bowing slightly. "Your Highness," Saris said softly, "I know this is difficult, but Commander Hale is not like the stories you have heard about humans. He is different. And I am not sure I can be what they expect me to be. His wife, the symbol of peace, a bridge between worlds. And sometimes, the universe chooses our path before we are ready to walk it." The next morning, the human arrived. Ethan Hale's ship descended from the sky like a silver arrow, its engines silent to the naked eye, a symbol of both hope and uncertainty. As he stepped onto Zithra's polished stone landing pad, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced death countless times and had learned not to fear it. The crowd of Zithrans that gathered outside the palace whispered and pointed, curious and cautious. Ethan's uniform was simple, unlike the ornate armors of Zithran generals. Yet there was an energy about him that seemed to hum beneath his skin, a calm force that did not demand attention but drew it naturally. Princess Lyra met him in the grand hall, flanked by her advisors and surrounded by the gleaming walls that had witnessed centuries of royal decisions. She studied him carefully. Humans were smaller, softer in appearance than Zithrans, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent, a clear reflection of his mind. "Princess Lyra," Ethan said, bowing slightly. His voice was clear, calm, and free of arrogance. "I am honored to meet you. I understand the gravity of the situation, and I hope we can work together for the sake of peace. I trust your skills are genuine." Ethan asked questions about Zithran culture, about their history and technology, and listened intently to every answer. Lyra found herself impressed by his curiosity and respect. Unlike many ambassadors or diplomats she had met, he did not seek to dominate or belittle. Instead, he sought understanding. Despite her initial apprehension, Lyra began to notice subtle differences in Ethan's approach. He spoke with clarity, thinking through problems logically but also creatively. When discussing military strategies, he proposed solutions that no Zithran had considered, blending tactics and technology in ways that were unconventional yet brilliant. One evening, the palace alarm sounded. A group of mercenary raiders had breached the outer perimeter, moving quickly toward the city. Lyra's heart raced as she and her guards prepared for the attack, unsure of the human's capabilities. Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Princess, stay behind me. I will handle this." His movements were precise, efficient, and controlled, yet there was an almost instinctive fluidity to the way he reacted. The Zithran council and palace guards stared, mouths open in disbelief. Humans were considered fragile, unpredictable, and limited in power. Yet here was one human demonstrating abilities that seemed beyond imagination. After the skirmish ended, Lyra approached him cautiously. "Commander Hale, that was extraordinary. I did not know humans could do such things." Here was a being she had feared and underestimated, yet he had saved countless lives with courage and ingenuity. In that moment, the boundaries of culture, species, and expectations seemed to fade. She realized that survival, and perhaps even hope, was possible because of him. Over the next few weeks, they trained together. Ethan taught the Zitharan warriors tactics that combined human ingenuity with Zitharan technology. Lyra observed silently, her admiration for him growing with each passing day. She also began to notice something more subtle: the humans' way of thinking, the way they faced uncertainty and danger without panic, inspired confidence in others. Even the most skeptical generals began to see the value of having him on their side. Late at night, Lyra often found herself wandering the palace gardens, thinking about the strange turn her life had taken. She had come to understand that her marriage to Ethan was not merely ceremonial. It was a bridge between worlds, a symbol that peace could exist even where distrust and fear had ruled for centuries. Ethan joined her one night, walking silently beside her. "Princess," he said softly, "I know this is not what you wanted for yourself, but you have a strength I have rarely seen. I am grateful to witness it. Perhaps we can show our people that strength comes in many forms." The stars seemed to shine a little brighter that night, reflecting not just light, but the possibilities of a future shaped by understanding, bravery, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. The sun rose over Zithara, painting the sky with streaks of gold and violet. The palace gardens shimmered with dew, reflecting the morning light in 1,000 tiny sparkles. Princess Lyra walked along the stone pathways, her mind restless. The previous weeks had been a whirlwind of meetings, ceremonies, and training exercises, yet she felt no closer to understanding the human who had become both her ally and her constant companion. Commander Ethan Hale moved beside her, his footsteps quiet on the polished stone. The human had grown comfortable in the palace, not as a visitor but as someone who belonged. He did not boast about his powers, nor did he flaunt his skills. Instead, he observed, learned, and acted with a quiet confidence that inspired those around him. "Your Highness," Ethan said, breaking the silence, "your people are remarkable. I've never seen such discipline and intelligence combined in one civilization. It's a privilege to work with you. That is more important than fear or discomfort." His patience was endless, his attention to detail precise, and his ability to see solutions where others saw only obstacles seemed almost uncanny. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm echoing through the palace. Red lights flashed across the corridors, signaling an emergency. Lyra's heart leapt, and Ethan's expression hardened. "Princess, stay behind me," he said, drawing a compact device from his belt. "I will see what this is." Lyra felt a cold knot in her stomach. She had trained for political negotiations, but she had never faced real war. Yet, standing beside Ethan, she felt a measure of courage she did not know she possessed. Ethan activated his device, and a transparent blue energy barrier enveloped the palace. The raiders fired their weapons, but the shield held firm, deflecting the attacks with precise adjustments. Ethan's hands moved quickly, calibrating the energy pulses as if he were conducting an orchestra of light and power. The palace guards watched in awe. The humans, they had been told, were fragile and unpredictable, yet here was one human, holding the fortress of Zithara against a wave of enemies that could have crushed the city. After the skirmish ended, the raiders retreating in disarray, Lyra approached Ethan. "How did you do that?" she asked, her voice a mixture of wonder and disbelief. Ethan lowered the device and smiled faintly. "It's technology," he said simply. "Energy manipulation combined with real-time analysis. Humans have been experimenting with these systems for decades. I only brought what was necessary to protect this palace." For the first time, she saw that humans were not weak. They were adaptable, resourceful, and courageous in ways that no Zitharan could fully anticipate. Over the next few days, Ethan worked tirelessly with the Zitharan military. He demonstrated new strategies, combining human tactics with Zitharan technology. He taught them to anticipate attacks not just through strength, but through understanding the enemy's thought process. Lyra watched silently as the generals, once skeptical of the human, now listened intently, taking notes and asking questions. Ethan did not command with authority. He suggested, demonstrated, and inspired. The effect on the Zitharan soldiers was immediate. Morale improved and confidence grew. One evening, as they trained in the palace courtyard, Lyra approached Ethan. "Commander, you have changed the way my people think," she said. "They respect you not because of what you can do, but because of how you see the world. And humans have a way of earning it through action, not titles or rank. Your people are strong, intelligent, and disciplined. They needed only a perspective they had not considered before. Perhaps it could be a partnership of equals, each learning from the other." The next challenge came sooner than expected. Scouts reported that the enemy Federation was mobilizing a larger force than initially anticipated. They were planning an attack on the central star system, and Zithra's location made it a prime target. The council convened immediately. Lyra sat beside Ethan, who had been consulted as a military advisor. The generals debated strategies, arguing over fleet formations, weapon calibrations, and defensive tactics. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions and suggesting minor adjustments that surprisingly improved their proposed plans. Finally, he spoke. "Your fleet is strong, but you are thinking like Zitharans. The enemy expects predictability. What they do not expect is adaptability, surprise, and unity among your forces. If you combine your strengths with human tactics, you can turn the enemy's assumptions against them." She trusted Ethan's judgment not blindly, but because she had seen his ability to act decisively under pressure. The days passed quickly. Training intensified, fleets were reorganized, and intelligence reports were analyzed with meticulous care. Lyra spent long hours with Ethan, discussing strategies, technologies, and the delicate nuances of diplomacy. She discovered that humans valued collaboration over hierarchy, innovation over tradition, and courage over fear. These principles, simple yet profound, had a transformative effect on Zithra's people. One night, as the twin moons of Zithra rose in the sky, Ethan and Lyra stood on the balcony overlooking the palace. The city below glowed with life, unaware of the larger threats moving through the stars. "Princess," Ethan said softly, "your people have incredible potential, but potential alone does not win wars. It is action, courage, and trust that turn potential into reality. I believe you can lead them to peace, not just survival. Then we have already begun to change the course of history, together." He activated his device once more, the blue energy shield forming instantly, shimmering with power and precision. The ships fired, but Ethan's control was flawless. The shield absorbed the attacks, redirecting energy pulses to disable the raiders without harming the city below. Zitharan soldiers watched in awe, realizing that this human, whom they had once underestimated, was now the key to their survival. After the battle, Lyra found herself reflecting on the incredible events of the day. The human she had feared and misunderstood had not only saved lives, but had transformed the way her people thought about strength, courage, and possibility. "Commander," she said quietly as they walked back to the palace, "you have done more than defend Zithra. You have shown us what we can become." The human was not a weapon, nor a miracle, but a partner, a guide, and a symbol of the extraordinary potential that lay within humanity itself. The days that followed were filled with preparation for the larger conflict looming on the horizon. Fleet formations were tested, strategies refined, and communication networks strengthened. Through it all, Lyra and Ethan worked side by side, learning from each other, growing in trust, and building a bond that went beyond duty or obligation. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt hope not just for herself, but for her people, her planet, and the future of the galaxy. She knew that the path ahead would be dangerous, that challenges far greater than any they had faced would come. Yet with Ethan Hale by her side, she believed that peace, though fragile and difficult, was possible. And so, as the stars of Zithra shimmered above, Lyra looked at the human who had become her ally, her guide, and perhaps something more. She felt a quiet certainty, a belief that together they could face the darkness and emerge stronger, wiser, and united. The universe was vast, filled with uncertainty and danger, but for the first time, Princess Lyra did not feel alone. With a human by her side, one who had already shown strength beyond belief, she believed that they could meet whatever challenges lay ahead, and perhaps in the process change the fate of the stars themselves. The skies above Zithra darkened with the shadows of distant fleets. Scouts had reported unusual activity near the edge of their sector, enemy ships gathering faster than intelligence had anticipated. The rival federation had clearly realized the significance of the human alliance. Commander Ethan Hale stood in the command room, his calm presence contrasting with the flurry of activity around him. Holographic displays flickered with star maps, fleet positions, and energy readings, while Zitharan generals debated strategies with increasing tension. Princess Lyra stood beside him, studying the maps. The information was overwhelming, a complex puzzle of numbers, coordinates, and potential threats. Yet Ethan approached it as if he could see the solution hidden among the chaos. His fingers moved over the controls with precision, adjusting fleet positions, calculating optimal defensive strategies, and predicting possible enemy maneuvers. "Your Highness," he said without looking up, "they expect us to react predictably. They assume our fleets will stay in standard formations and follow traditional patterns. That is where we can gain an advantage." Many were traditionalists, proud of Zithara's history of disciplined formations and rigid strategy. Yet even they could not deny the results of Ethan's previous suggestions. The palace defenses had held against raiders, morale had improved, and soldiers now approached him with a mixture of awe and respect. Over the next few days, Ethan worked tirelessly, training the fleets in unconventional maneuvers. He emphasized teamwork, communication, and flexibility. Zitharan pilots, initially skeptical of human methods, found themselves executing maneuvers that had once seemed impossible. They marveled at how a human mind could anticipate enemy moves, counter them, and inspire coordinated action across multiple ships. Lyra observed him closely, noting how he remained calm under pressure, how he inspired confidence without dominating, and how he encouraged everyone to contribute ideas. The more she watched, the more she realized that humans had a unique combination of creativity, intuition, and courage. It was not raw power that set them apart, but the ability to adapt and inspire. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithara rose high in the sky, an urgent alert echoed through the palace. A fleet of enemy ships had entered Zitharan's space, moving faster than the scouts had anticipated. Their sensors detected hundreds of vessels, armed with advanced weaponry and energy shields designed to penetrate conventional defenses. The council convened immediately. Lyra sat at the center of the room, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Ethan stepped forward, his expression calm but focused. "They are testing us," he said. "They want to see how we respond. Their main attack will not come for another cycle. This is our chance to prepare to outthink them and to demonstrate that the human alliance is not a weakness, it is a strength." Ethan listened carefully, occasionally interjecting with questions that revealed weaknesses in their assumptions. Slowly, the strategy shifted, incorporating his suggestions. Flexible formations, decoy fleets, and energy field traps designed to confuse and slow the enemy. Lyra found herself impressed once again. He was not just giving orders or advice. He was teaching her people to think differently, to challenge old methods, and to embrace creativity in warfare. She realized that this was why humans were underestimated across the galaxy. They did not rely on rigid tradition. They relied on ingenuity, courage, and the ability to adapt in real time. As preparations continued, Lyra and Ethan spent long hours together, reviewing simulations, analyzing enemy behavior, and planning contingencies. In these moments, the distance between them narrowed. They laughed quietly over minor mistakes, debated strategies with intensity, and shared stories of their respective worlds. Lyra learned about human resilience, how humans survived challenges that seemed insurmountable, and how they often achieved victory through ingenuity rather than brute force. Ethan learned about Zithara's culture, its history of honor and discipline, and the subtle intricacies of their political system. They began to understand each other not just as allies, but as partners in a larger mission. Lyra found herself trusting him implicitly, relying on his insights and instincts. In turn, Ethan respected her intelligence, courage, and unwavering dedication to her people. The first encounter with the enemy came sooner than expected. Scouts reported a fleet moving through an asteroid belt near Zithara, using the dense field as cover. Ethan suggested a daring plan. A small strike team would intercept the enemy fleet, drawing them into a trap prepared by the main Zitharan forces. The council hesitated, fearing loss of life, but Lyra intervened. "Commander Hale has guided us this far," she said. "I trust his plan. We cannot falter now. If we do nothing, we will lose more than a few ships. We will lose the chance for peace." Energy nets and shield distortions disrupted their formation, causing confusion and slowing their advance. The battle was intense. Ships collided with asteroids, weapons fired and deflected in dazzling displays of light, and the human-led tactics proved their worth. Ethan's energy manipulation device allowed key positions to remain protected, while smaller Zitharan ships executed maneuvers that maximized their speed and agility. Lyra watched with growing admiration. She had expected humans to be fragile, limited, and vulnerable. Yet here was one human, orchestrating a defense that turned the tide of battle. His strategies relied not on overwhelming firepower, but on careful observation, quick thinking, and inspiring confidence in those around him. When the enemy retreat became evident, a cheer rose from the command center. Zitharan soldiers and pilots looked at Ethan with newfound respect. He had not only protected their planet, but he had demonstrated the true potential of humans. After the battle, Lyra approached him on the balcony overlooking the city. The night was quiet, the stars reflecting off the calm waters of the palace fountains. "You have done something extraordinary," she said softly. "Not just in battle, but in showing my people what humans are capable of. It is your people's strength combined with our tactics. It is trust, coordination, and courage. Humans are not invincible, but we are resourceful, and now your people know that too." She realized that true strength came not from tradition or power alone, but from the ability to learn, adapt, and work together. In the following days, the threat of the enemy Federation loomed larger. Intelligence reports indicated that the enemy was preparing a massive offensive, planning to overwhelm Zithara with sheer numbers. Ethan and Lyra worked tirelessly to prepare the planet's defenses, combining human ingenuity with Zitharan technology. Lyra found herself increasingly reliant on Ethan's judgment. He remained calm under pressure, weighing risks and considering options with clarity that impressed even the most experienced generals. His ideas were unconventional yet practical, often turning the enemy's expectations against them. One night, as they reviewed the fleet's readiness, Lyra spoke quietly. "Commander, I never imagined that a human could make such a difference. You have shown my people and me that courage and intelligence are more powerful than any weapon." "It is not just me, Princess. It is what humans and Zitharans can achieve together. This alliance is more than political. It is a demonstration of what collaboration can accomplish." Humanity had been underestimated, but she now understood that the potential of humans, combined with Zitharan's skill, could overcome challenges that no one had thought possible. The night before the enemy's main offensive, the palace was alive with quiet anticipation. Soldiers checked their weapons, engineers calibrated energy fields, and strategists finalized their plans. Ethan walked beside Lyra, reviewing last-minute details and offering reassurance. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "we will face the largest threat Zithara has ever seen. But I have no doubt that we will succeed, not because we are stronger individually, but because we stand together." The human who had arrived as a stranger, an unknown entity, had become her partner in every sense. She believed in his abilities, in his judgment, and in the extraordinary potential of humanity that he had already revealed. As the stars of Zithara glimmered in the sky, Lyra and Ethan stood together, ready to face the challenges ahead. The enemy Federation was formidable, their technology advanced, and their numbers overwhelming. Yet with ingenuity, courage, and unity, they would demonstrate that strength came in many forms, and that humanity, often underestimated, could rise beyond all expectations. The dawn of battle was approaching, and with it, the chance to show the galaxy that the alliance between a human and a Zitharan was not merely symbolic, but powerful, transformative, and unstoppable. The sun had barely risen over Zithara when the first signs of the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon. Thousands of ships glinted in the morning light, their dark hulls moving with precise coordination. The sensors in the palace command center detected energy readings far stronger than anything Zithara had encountered before. The time for preparation was over. The battle had begun. Commander Ethan Hale stood at the center of the command room, flanked by Princess Lyra and the leading generals of Zithara. His calm presence contrasted with the tension around him. Holographic displays projected the positions of Zitharan fleets and the incoming enemy forces. The room hummed with activity as officers relayed messages and coordinated defenses. "Your Highness," Ethan said quietly, "they are attempting to split our forces. If we react as expected, they will encircle us. We must remain flexible and use the terrain to our advantage. Observation and quick adaptation will be our greatest strength." Ships fired at targets that weren't there, wasting precious energy and exposing weak points in their formation. Lyra watched from the command center, heart pounding. The display showed one of the enemy's larger cruisers advancing toward the palace. It fired a massive energy beam, capable of breaching even Zithara's strongest defenses. Ethan's hand moved swiftly across the controls, adjusting the energy shields surrounding the palace and redirecting power to vulnerable points. The beam struck the shield, but it held firm. The palace trembled slightly, yet no damage was done. "Excellent," Ethan murmured, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "Keep the shields at maximum and redirect the surplus energy to our interceptor teams. They can exploit the enemy's disarray." Lyra felt a mixture of awe and pride. The human she had feared and underestimated had become the heart of their defense. His strategies were unconventional, but they worked flawlessly. She began to understand why humans were often dismissed by other civilizations. They did not follow rigid rules, but they thrived on adaptability, courage, and creativity. The enemy commander, sensing the trap, adjusted his fleet, concentrating fire on a sector of the Zitharan fleet. Ethan anticipated this move. "Divert 20% of your ships to flank them from the south," he instructed. "They will not expect an attack from that direction." Zitharan ships appeared from behind a nearby asteroid field, striking the enemy's flank and creating chaos in their formation. Energy beams collided, shields flared, and the battle turned into a complex dance of fire, light, and movement. Lyra noticed the confidence of her people growing. Soldiers and pilots who had once doubted the human now followed his guidance without hesitation. Ethan inspired them not through authority, but through example, logic, and unwavering calm. Each successful strike reinforced the belief that they could overcome even the most formidable enemy. Amid the chaos, a large enemy cruiser broke through the outer defenses and advanced toward the palace. Lyra's pulse quickened. Ethan did not panic. Instead, he activated his energy manipulation device, creating a series of concentrated fields that forced the cruiser off course. Zitharan interceptor teams joined the effort, targeting the cruiser's weak points as Ethan coordinated their attacks. The enemy cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash, debris scattering across space. A cheer rose from the command center, but Ethan did not relax. "Stay alert," he warned. "This is only the beginning. They will escalate." At one point, a group of enemy fighters attempted to breach the palace perimeter directly. Lyra, unable to remain idle, activated her own combat systems. Side by side with Ethan, she guided the palace defense systems, coordinating energy fields and issuing commands to the Zitharan guards. Together, they created a protective zone, intercepting the enemy fighters before they could cause damage. For the first time, Lyra fought alongside a human in a battle that could decide the fate of her planet. She felt a surge of confidence and trust in him. Every decision he made, every prediction, every strategy was precise. It was not just strength that he displayed. It was intelligence, foresight, and the ability to inspire unity. Hours passed, but Ethan's energy remained steady. He moved between different stations, adjusting defenses, redirecting power, and coordinating attacks. Zitharan pilots began to call him a legend, whispering stories of his human ingenuity and courage. Even the enemy seemed unsettled by his unpredictability. As the battle reached its climax, the enemy commander attempted a final, desperate maneuver, a massive concentrated strike aimed directly at the palace's core. Ethan's mind raced. He activated a complex sequence of energy pulses, using the palace shields to absorb the attack and redirect it toward a weak point in the enemy fleet. The result was spectacular. The strike backfired, causing a chain reaction that destroyed several enemy capital ships at once. Lyra watched in disbelief. The human she had married, the human she had feared, had not only saved her people, but had turned the enemy's own attack against them. Zithara's defenders cheered, their confidence unshakable, their belief in humanity strengthened. When the battle finally ended, the enemy fleet retreated, their losses devastating. Zithara had survived, and the human alliance had proven its worth beyond question. Lyra felt a profound sense of relief and admiration. She approached Ethan, her eyes reflecting both pride and gratitude. "You have done what I could not imagine," she said softly. "Not just defending Zithara, but showing my people what humans are capable of." Together, they had faced the unimaginable and succeeded. Humanity had been underestimated, but now the Zitharans knew that their new ally possessed extraordinary potential. In the days that followed, the palace and city celebrated the victory. Zitharan citizens honored Ethan and the human-led strategies that had saved their world. Lyra walked among her people, proud and inspired by what they had achieved together. She understood now that strength came not only from power, technology, or tradition, but from intelligence, courage, and the ability to adapt to the unexpected. Ethan continued to train with the Zitharan military, refining tactics and preparing for any future threats. Lyra joined him in these exercises, learning not only strategy but also the philosophy behind human ingenuity. She found herself thinking differently, considering new solutions, and seeing possibilities where she had once seen only limits. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Lyra and Ethan stood on the palace balcony, looking over the city. The streets were calm, the celebrations winding down, and the stars above reflected the hope that now burned brightly in her heart. "Commander," she said, her voice soft, "I have never been so certain that the future can be different. You have shown my people and me that courage and creativity can change the course of events. That strength is more than raw power." "It is not only humans who can learn this, Princess. Any civilization can. The key is collaboration, trust, and willingness to adapt. You have led your people through that learning process, and I am proud to stand beside you." She realized that this human, this stranger from a distant world, had become indispensable, not just to her people, but to her personally. Together, they had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. The stars above Zithara seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting not just light, but the possibilities that lay ahead. The universe was vast and dangerous, yet Lyra knew that with humanity by her side, with courage, ingenuity, and unity, they could face any challenge. The victory was complete, but the journey was far from over. The rival federations still existed, their ambitions undiminished. Yet for the first time, Lyra believed that the future could be shaped not by fear, but by hope, intelligence, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. And as she stood beside Commander Ethan Hale, she understood that together, they could build a peace that would endure, a bond that would inspire others, and a future where humanity's true strength would shine across the stars. The sky over Zithara was calm, a stark contrast to the chaos of the days before. The twin moons reflected on the smooth surfaces of the city, and the soft glow of lights in the streets gave the planet an almost serene beauty. The warships that had once patrolled the orbit were now docked, and the soldiers, pilots, and engineers moved with purpose but no urgency, free from the shadow of immediate danger. Princess Lyra walked through the palace halls, observing her people as they rebuilt and repaired what had been damaged during the battles. Even in the midst of repairs, there was laughter, chatter, and the quiet pride of a civilization that had survived against overwhelming odds. Zitharans had always been resilient, but the recent victory, guided by the human commander, had awakened a deeper confidence in their potential. Commander Ethan Hale moved beside her, his presence calm and steady. He had spent the days after the battle assisting in the reorganization of defenses and helping to train the next generation of Zitharan leaders. Though he had returned from the front lines, his energy remained tireless, and his eyes still held the same intensity that had inspired so many during the conflict. "Your Highness," Ethan said softly, glancing at the rebuilding crews, "your people are remarkable. Even after the danger has passed, they continue to act with skill and discipline. They have learned from this experience, and I believe Zithara is stronger than it has ever been. Humanity has ideas, yes, but it is civilizations like yours that bring them to life. Together, we can achieve more than either of us could alone." The enemy federation had agreed to a truce, recognizing the unbreakable bond between humans and Zitharans and the effectiveness of their united strength. Lyra took her place at the center of the room with Ethan beside her. As she addressed the assembly, her voice carried not only authority but conviction. "We have faced a threat that sought to destroy us. Yet through courage, strategy, and cooperation, we have survived. This alliance between Zithara and humanity is more than political. It is proof that unity, intelligence, and understanding can overcome even the greatest challenges." Representatives from allied worlds nodded, some whispering in admiration about the human commander who had played a pivotal role in the defense of Zithara. For many, this was the first time they had seen humans not as weak outsiders, but as strategic partners capable of shaping the fate of entire star systems. After the meeting, Lyra and Ethan walked through the palace gardens, their steps slow, almost reflective. The events of the past weeks had forged a connection between them stronger than either had expected. They had come together out of necessity, but their shared experiences, trust, and understanding had created a bond that went far beyond duty. "You have changed everything," Lyra said quietly, watching the moons cast soft light over the fountains. Not just for Zithra, but for me. I never imagined that a human could make such a difference. But I have learned as much from them as I hope they have learned from me. You have shown me the meaning of courage, honor, and leadership on a scale I had never witnessed before. Something real. Music, art, and cultural exchanges filled the halls, showing a blending of Zitharan and human traditions. It was a festival not just of survival, but of unity, hope, and recognition of what had been achieved together. Humans, for the first time in many alien civilizations' eyes, were seen not as fragile or limited, but as innovators, problem solvers, and courageous partners. Lyra watched as her people danced and laughed, seeing in their joy the transformation she had hoped for. The fear and uncertainty that had hung over the planet for so long were now replaced by confidence and pride. She glanced at Ethan, who stood nearby, watching the celebrations with a quiet satisfaction. Even without fanfare, his influence was clear. The alliance had changed not just the outcome of the war, but the hearts and minds of her people. One afternoon, as the celebrations wound down, Lyra and Ethan walked to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. The sun was low, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. The air was warm, filled with the faint scent of flowers and the distant sounds of celebration. "You have given my people hope," Lyra said softly, "and you have given me something I did not expect: courage, trust, belief that the impossible is possible. It was impossible not to follow your example. You know," she said quietly, "I never imagined that a political arrangement could feel right. But with you, it does. Somehow it feels like this was meant to be, not just for peace, but for something greater. Not just in duty, but in purpose, and perhaps in life." And together they had learned that trust, courage, and cooperation could achieve what raw power alone could not. As the night deepened, Lyra and Ethan stood in quiet reflection, looking at the stars above Zithra. Each point of light reminded them of the vastness of the universe, the dangers yet to come, and the possibilities that awaited. Yet for the first time, Lyra felt confident, not just in the survival of her people, but in the potential of humans and in the partnership that had grown between her and Ethan. In the following weeks, Zithra entered a new era. Trade and diplomatic relations expanded, not only with humans but with other neighboring systems. The story of Ethan Hale, the human who had helped defend the planet, spread across the stars. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were recognized as a civilization capable of ingenuity, courage, and leadership. Lyra continued her role as princess and leader, now guided by a broader vision inspired by her experiences with Ethan. She implemented new strategies for defense, diplomacy, and education, teaching her people that adaptability, creativity, and collaboration were as valuable as traditional strength. Ethan remained at her side, working to strengthen the alliance and assisting with projects that bridged human and Zitharan knowledge. Together, they trained future leaders, shared technology, and fostered understanding between their peoples. What had begun as a political marriage for the sake of peace had transformed into a partnership that would shape the future of the galaxy. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Lyra spoke softly. "Commander, the galaxy will remember this time. It will remember the courage, the collaboration, and the hope we have built together. Then let it be known that Zithra and humanity stand together, not as strangers, not as allies by chance, but as partners in shaping a future where peace and understanding are possible." Humans, once dismissed and underestimated, were now recognized as a force of hope, ingenuity, and courage. And in the quiet of the palace, Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, looking toward a future filled with promise. Together, they had faced impossible odds, transformed perceptions, and created a peace that would endure. Together, they had shown that humanity, united with courage and intelligence, could rise beyond belief and shape the destiny of the stars. The galaxy was vast, and challenges would always come. But for Zithra, for humanity, and for the bond they had forged, the future was bright. The impossible had been made possible, not by power alone, but by vision, courage, and the extraordinary potential of humans. And so, as the twin moons rose over Zithra and the stars glittered above, Princess Lyra and Commander Ethan Hale looked to the horizon, ready for whatever new adventures awaited them. Their journey had begun with duty, but it had grown into something greater, a partnership that would inspire generations and prove that the strength of humanity could change the galaxy forever.